Are you stressed? Are you struggling with something new, difficult, challenging? Because if you're like us, you are. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. Today we're going to talk about how to handle stress. I'm Danny, here with my buddy Randy. What's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny.
So, Randy, have you ever felt stress or recently felt stress?
Recently, absolutely, and also in history too. And it's so crazy because it's like, it's when I can zoom out and when I can step outside of the stress, I just see it as like part of this cycle. Because I'll be like
Yeah.
depressed because I don't know what to do with my life, and then all of a sudden I'll get some inspiration. And I'll start working towards it. And then there's new challenges that are outside of my comfort zone. And then there's all this stress. And then eventually there's the breakthrough and like the hero's journey and that whole thing. But it's like when I'm in it,
Yeah.
there's no perspective.
Isn't it funny though? It's like, dude, and I went through this literally because they're doing something similar, but I went through the same thing, dude. Like, we're like the other day, I got like really depressed, and I was like, what the, like, and like I knew nothing was necessarily wrong, but I realized it was from the stress that I was feeling. Because like, even though I'm pretty confident, I know I can do this thing, like it's still stressful. It always is. You can't get away from it. Like, and I think some people are just prone to it. So hopefully, we can help people today with a few tips.
Or at least help
I'm gonna
ourselves.
start. Yeah, right. I mean, that's the main thing. If I can help myself, I don't really care. That's the goal. Oh God. Anyway, so my first one, I actually just did this last night and it helped a lot, which is work through it on paper, journal. So particularly visit similar past experiences in your life on paper, write out what happened. Just write down what's going on so you can identify. Like I find that's like my biggest problem a lot of times is like I'll feel stressed, but like there's no like acknowledgement of what actually is causing it. Like clearly, there's no clear. And once you acknowledge it clearly, a lot of times it's a lot easier to manage. Like all feelings, once you identify them, it's a lot easier to manage. So journaling is a great way, I think, to do it on paper, get it out in the world, and nobody else has to see it, but you can really spend some time working through it. Sometimes, do it like 10 minutes at night in the morning, maybe a couple times, and usually it helps me figure out what I'm dealing with.
Yeah, that's a great one. Like I heard it said once that a lot of stress and worry comes from knowing what to do and not doing it. And so
Yeah,
like,
most of
yes,
it, I think.
yeah, so I was journaling about my stresses this morning, and I was trying to get specific about what things were stressing me, and then I was like, what action can I take to
Oh,
because
that's a good one.
action they say like action cures fear. So like here's a whole bunch of fears that I
Yeah.
have that are causing me stress. What action can I take in that direction? And just I started doing it and it didn't fix it, but it was a step in the right direction.
It is, and you feel good because at least you did something, right, towards it, and like you can kind of maybe start getting whittling down what you need to do. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
can be helpful.
All right. So my first one for how to handle stress is meditate. And this is the hardest thing to do when you're stressed. I tried it a whole bunch today, but it's crazy because like during the meditation, and I used a guided meditation because I tried doing it by myself and my brain was just going way too fast to like
Yeah,
sit still. So like I did guided meditation and it was just about coming back to right now. Like it was a specific meditation for stress and it was just like, okay, you're stressed, just come back to now, just for this moment. And then just come back to and like I eventually I saw that like, oh yeah, all this stress is like outside of right now. If I just focus
yeah.
on right now, there's just some sensations in my body, maybe. So I think
Yeah.
meditation is helpful, not easy, but helpful.
No, it's not easy though, and it's funny because I did that last night because I fell asleep for like 2 hours, woke up, and then I was like wide awake because my brain started going, and I couldn't like fall back asleep because all these problems just running through my head. So I tried meditating and it actually helped me fall back asleep. And I just did like just basic breathing exercises and stuff. But it took a while because whenever I'm stressed, it's way harder for you to get to that point where you're like, your brain's calm, cleared out and all. But it did help and it always helps. And I think like it's one of those things where you forget sometimes to even do it when you're really stressed and it's super valuable. So yeah, I think that's a good one. Just because it calms you down, it just gives you a chance just to like, you know, stop a little nonsense for a
Be
minute.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, be present. My second one for how to handle stress is reflect on similar experiences in your past and the lessons you learned, or try to find the lesson if you didn't really specifically think about it at the time. Because like I know like a lot of times like most new situations I think we find ourselves in, a lot of times we're leveraging things that we already can do, know how to do. Like it's rare that we're going in like completely with nothing. So look to your past. Have you been through something similar? It doesn't have to be identical. It could be a stressful time of anything. Like I didn't prepare for a final or something in school, or was starting a new job or starting a new whatever. It's usually new places and new things that we're doing that give us stress. So look back at those times, remind yourself, look, I got through it, still here. What did I do then? What can I do now? And because I know that I got through it, then that gives me the power to get through it now.
Yeah. And it's funny how like the things causing stress right now, there's a good chance you've probably already surmounted them in the past or something very, very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
it
most
caused
of our
stress back
experience,
then and it's causing stress
yeah,
again now.
it always does. It's
How
so
about
funny.
that? Yeah. My
Yeah.
second one for how to handle stress is exercise. And
Mm.
this is from Mr. Rogers. And he was saying that like when
Oh
you
yeah, he always used to do that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was like when you have the really strong feelings, bang on a piano, go exercise really hard. And I did this today and it was very helpful because when I was in the gym lifting heavy weights and on the verge of passing out, I was not thinking about my problems. And then when I was swimming super fast and like gasping for oxygen, I was not thinking about my
Yeah.
problems. So yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one.
It is a good one. It releases endorphins, which help too. They help calm you down, make you feel better. And also I think a lot of times too, stress is just like there's like this nervous energy. At least that's, I mean, I always feel that
Mhm.
with stress. Like you have like this nervous built up energy and that physical activity gets rid of it. So you feel like a little bit calmer. It's like you can approach things with a clear head afterwards.
Yeah, I remember they did a study somewhere where uh this nervous energy that's in the body, it can either be like anxiety or excitement. So they did some
Really?
type of it, yeah, and it's the same
Huh.
exact feelings in the body. And so they did an experiment with people where they gave them some drug that made them have like this anxious energy, and and then half of the room they had someone in there being like, "Oh, I'm really anxious. I'm really, oh my goodness, I'm really." And then the other room they had someone like, "Yeah, I'm really amped. I'm really excited." And dude, everybody in the room who was with the amp person was amped, and everybody in the anxious room was anxious, but all of their body signals were exactly the same.
That's so funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's weird, right? That like, and it makes sense that we like read other people too, because that like they say that all the time, like laughing, smiling, yawning, all those things like we
Mm-hmm.
read, you tend to mimic it or whatever. That's funny. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
same exact like basically chemistry going on
Yeah.
for
Right.
both.
Yeah.
That's nice. Is it wait, is mine or yours?
So I guess this quick fix should be how to handle being totally stoked.
Yeah, right. I'd be totally stoked. When you're
Yeah,
so excited,
it's
you're
yours.
vibrating with energy.
Yeah, it's yours.
All right. For my last one, how to handle stress. Remind yourself, just breathe. It's okay. It's
Mm.
just life. I think I try to remind myself all the time, like you can have bad days, things are gonna happen. There's gonna be stress, there's gonna be anxiety. It is just life. We can get through it. Remind yourself it's okay. Take a step back. Things aren't that crazy important. You know? Sometimes it's just helpful.
Yeah, dude. I've been doing that because that's like one of my strategies for when I do get kind of overwhelmed is doing one of my breathing practices. And I do like Wim Hof breathing and I also do some like free diving CO2 tables. Because dude, when you're doing some deep breathing and then also when you're holding your breath, all of a sudden, like things get a lot more intense. Like the present gets a lot more intense because all of a sudden you've got this
Oh, that
insane
makes sense,
air
right?
hunger that you don't normally have.
You're focused on like the immediate thing, yeah, not
Yeah.
anything else. That's a
Yeah.
good, yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Draws your consciousness to one thing.
Right. Yeah. So my last one for how to handle stress is let go of the time constraints. Now, this is something where like a lot of my stress comes that there's some problem that I want to fix now or something that I don't want to be dealing with right now. And oftentimes the stress is caused by a time constraint. Sometimes I want to learn something super fast, or I just want to, get all this stuff done, or I want to be good at something quickly. And it's the time constraint. I've been noticing that it's the time constraint that's what's causing me stress. Because if I
Mm.
think about it, and if I'm like, okay, like I want to be good at this thing in a week, but that's causing me a lot of stress. What if I wanted to be good at this in like 10 years? And I'm like, ooh, there's some space. I could definitely be good at this in 10 years. Like in 10 years, I can do a
Really?
lot. And then I'm like, okay, well, how about like 40 years? And I'm like, oh, piece of cake, lifetime.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. totally easy. And so I noticed that like the time constraint that I impose on myself, because I think that like I need to do it right this time. I need to get it right this time. I need to get it perfect. That causes a lot of stress. And once I start opening it up to where, I mean, even though there may be a time constraint, even though I would still like to get it right, knowing that like, okay, fine, if I don't get it right this first time, how about, in a month or a year or 10 years or whatever? It makes it a lot easier.
No, it does. And you're right too. It is those self-imposed time constraints, I think, that really do it. Because I do the same thing. Like I'm always like, I gotta do more now, so I get this done now. And like when I stop myself when I'm thinking like that, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like it's one day. I can't possibly do all this in a day. It's just stupid. And I used to do that to myself. I used to beat myself up so bad when I had like deadlines for like assignments in school because I would like, I'd be like, I gotta get this done now. I gotta get this done by 5 o'clock today. So I'm gonna do the next thing. And like it just overwhelms you with stress. Whereas if I just let myself calm down and do it, I get it done a lot faster. So yeah, I think that's a really good one. So there you have it. Hopefully that helps you guys handle stress. More importantly, hopefully that handles helps us handle stress, and we'll see what happens. uh, this is the Stoic podcast. Listen wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment if you can, or a review on Apple Podcasts. It's very helpful. We'll be back later this week with a full length episode, though. Until then, later, Andy.
Later, Danny.